A very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Sunday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. If you look back to the last video, I spoke about the occurrence of the sudden stratospheric warming away up in the upper levels of the stratosphere, 10 millibars. And then I also showed you why it was important to not just single-handedly look at that level and judge a weather pattern, you know, say from 500 millibars down, based purely on that strat warming away up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. It was much more complicated than that. It wasn't as simple as that. And even with the occurrence of that sudden stratospheric warming just around the new year, just after the new year, I did state heavily that there was still a long way to go until we could see some sort of a weather pattern developing that was in a good response to that strat warming. But this is looking at the 50 HPA temperatures within the stratosphere here, and you can see here the warming extending from basically the east coast of Asia across into the northwestern part of North America. We've still got cold heights at this level here over Greenland and extending towards the UK. But I want to show you what takes place next, and this is very, very important. Like I say, you expand the stratosphere, you contract the troposphere, you're lowering the tropopause, which separates the troposphere and the stratosphere. You're basically lowering the thicknesses. And what happens is, as we skip through the next week to 10 days, this is the response now starting to show of that sudden stratospheric warming that occurred at 10 millibars way up in the upper levels of the stratosphere. Notice here, by 120 hours, so this is a very clear signal that there is a response mirroring the upper level strat warming here. So we're starting to see the response in the lower levels of the stratosphere, and this should indicate that we start to raise pressure here. When you start to expand the column, what you're doing is you're raising barometric pressure and creating high pressure at 500 millibars and even below that. So we're now starting to see the response of the sudden stratospheric warming. Skip through the 240 hours, you've now got warmth extending from the Pacific over top of the pole and into arguably the Baffin Sea here between Greenland and Canada. And what is interesting, if you look then at the GFS Ensemble, watch what happens with the 500 millibar heights here. So of course the reds represent above normal high pressure at 500 millibars, and of course the blues represent troughiness and low pressure at 500 millibars. As I skip through this sequence, folks, it is interesting, it is in fact beautiful to watch the response that this sudden stratospheric warming is now shown in the models here. So like I said to you, before the fact, the models can't read what's going on above. But once you start to get that coupling, once you get the downwelling effect, you transfer the energy down through the column, it starts to respond to the atmosphere. Then the models have got something physical to work with, and after that you start to see that response. And I believe that we're going right to the very, very setup that I anticipated here. Watch what happens here with the trough over Eastern Europe. Of course, we've got a bit of ridging here over the UK here. We're pulling in milder air, of course. And some people are saying, oh, here comes the mild weather. But watch this space here, folks, because usually before we see the response of a sudden stratospheric warming, you actually get a warm-up in the weather pattern. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. But watch this. As we play through the loop, watch how we start to build the big strong block and high. Then we start to hook up the trough eastern North America. Look at the massive trough here, the drop, the collapse in pressure heights here, with a blocking over the top. What that's doing is we're seeing the reversal in the winds from westerly to easterly. Massive amount of cold air starts to build over Eastern Europe. What we'll do is when we start to hook that ridge over the top into the upper reaches of Scandinavia, you start to pull the building cold that we'll start to see, and are starting to see, by the way. We'll start to see that getting retrograded west over the continent and into the British Isles here. So, like I've said before, 15th through the 20th, this is when the pattern starts to really change, and I believe it is possible that this pattern takes us well into February, in fact. So it's very interesting to say. Let's have a look at this is the European version of the GFS Ensemble at 500 millibars. And you kind of see at the moment, of course, we've seen a terrific snowstorm across Madrid. One of the highest capitals in Europe, by the way. So snow is not unusual during the winter time. But when you get a couple of feet of snow in one storm, that is very unusual. And of course, we've seen temperatures as low as -14 across northern Spain. Liège in Austria, we've seen a record-breaking December snowfall there. We've also seen record-breaking snow into early January. We've also seen the temperature drop to -20 in that particular resort in Austria. That's the coldest temperatures since 2009. Of course, we've seen record snow and cold in Japan and China. So certainly there is a lot of winter going on this year versus the non-winter, of course, of last year. But let's play the loop here. This is, of course, the European view. You can start to see here the major cold dome starts to sink into Eastern Europe. And then watch what happens. We'll start to build the ridge over the top. The cold air then starts to get pushed westwards and into the western part of the British Isles here. Folks, this is the type of pattern that we see extreme cold. We've not seen -18 in the UK since December 2010. I believe it's coming to the UK at the end of January this year. So in a couple of weeks' time, we could be talking about major cold and also major snow. And I'll show you that in just a second. But I want to bring you back to the 2-meter temperature anomalies here, because this is pretty exciting to watch as well. If you notice here, we'll play through the loop. This is the type of cold pattern, like I say, that can develop into some major stuff. But watch the progression westwards of the cold pool. So we'll fill Europe with cold. We're going to also start to see the glacier build westwards from eastern and northeastern Europe right across the continent. We could be seeing signs of a 2010 type setup as we go forward. This is snowfall probability here, and I want to play the loop and finish with this. Watch how much the snowfall probability just completely covers pretty much the entire continent here, including all of the British Isles, as we go towards the end of this loop. So really, folks, this is an incredible winter weather pattern. This could be the real deal. It could certainly produce -18, -20. If we continue to see these models just honing in and without getting too carried away, without getting overexcited, there is definitely clear signal here that we have something major coming towards the end of the month. Exactly how much cold and how much snow we get, still a little bit open to question, but I think you can definitely agree with me that we have got a lot of major winter weather coming as we go towards the end of the month. That's it for today. Hope you have a great day, and I'll be back in the next few days with more. Bye for now.